everybody. Ooh, that's loud. Yes. Come on. All right, welcome. We're going to give our IT guy like 1 or 2 more minutes so we can make sure everything works perfectly. That is really annoying with this sound. So before we get started with our actual feature speaker, I'd like to welcome you to the Sustainability Innovation Lecture Series. This is the second in a series. They're going every Wednesday evening in this room until April. So check it out. There's these brochures out on the front table. If you want to see what's coming up next, feel free to take one and share it. There's also a variety of wonderful materials, which I'm sure you'll hear more about from our speaker, about the programs that we have going on here on campus in terms of our sustainability studies degrees. So minor, major, graduate certificates, all kinds of great information. So before we get too far in, to introduce myself, my name is Krista Bailey. I'm the director of the Center for Sustainable Future here. And this is all out tonight. So that's me. So before you meet our speaker, I think we need to figure out who all is in the room. So take a look around. If you see someone you don't know, now is your chance to mix and mingle and introduce yourself to someone new. Say hi, what brought them out, what they're excited to hear about. You get a free question you can ask. So take a few minutes to get to know your neighbor, and we'll reconvene and we'll get to know our speaker. Shots. Where are you from?
Well, you know, at the end of the day, it will help you find the right buyer or renter, but also, you know, lifestyle. Okay, good. Nice to meet you. I'll be back to introducing the store. Sorry, Dave. What are you doing over there? Like to get shirts, sneakers, whatever. Oh, okay, so you do it first. That's fair enough. Thank you. I'm trying to stay away. I'm trying to
Thank you to our IT department for also taking the time. Before we get any further, I should thank our sponsors that made this whole event possible. We would find them on the brochure should you pick one up. But I do want to thank Innovative Solar, our local solar installation company, for helping to support this event, as well as NIPSCO. People come to the NIPSCO talk last week. They actually gave a very intriguing presentation. And our local NPR station, AD Equipment, WBPE, thanks to them for their media sponsorship, and 85, who we will hear about more in just a moment. So, with no more further ado, I'd like to introduce John Harris. He's a co-founder of A5, a branding and marketing out of Chicago. Also one of the co-founders of the GreenTown conferences. You want to go to the GreenTown, South Bend? Several people. So we had a couple of those in the area. There's been many across the Midwest, bring people together around sustainability issues. So doing a lot of great work. It's really my pleasure to have gotten to work with John over the years and to let him tell you a bit more about what he does. Welcome, John.
Thank you, Krista. Thank you, Mike. Thank you to Indiana University South Bend for welcoming me here tonight to talk with you for a little bit. Who is here of their own volition? No, let me say okay. And who was forced here by someone else? Okay. There's a few of you. Is your little girl here back here? Is she here of her own free will? She is. She decided. Okay, great. Okay, well, thank you. So half of you are here because theoretically you want to be, or you have nowhere else to go better tonight. Although I know there's a lot of wonderful things to do here at South Bend because we've spent a lot of time here in this area over the last several years in northern Indiana and the Michiana area. So what we're going to talk to you about tonight is the idea of everyone in, the idea of bridging divides amongst people to create healthy, sustainable communities. And it's one of the things that over the last 15 years of my career and going back 30 years, one of the things that we've noticed is that there's a certain number of people who are really passionate and interested, and then there's some people who maybe aren't so aware, and there's some people who may not care, and there's some people who are just, for whatever reason, seem to be dead set against doing some things to create a healthy planet and a healthy economy and healthy places for all of us who live and work in our communities. So, where am I supposed to advance? I gotta go here, is that what I have to do? Krista? Yeah, I actually, good, I can't go like this. So, we're gonna give you a little bit about us first. A5 is a branding and digital consultancy. We're in Chicago. We're in Tampa, St. Pete. We're in New York. We've got 15 people, full and part-time. And our job, what we do in working with our clients, is help them tell their stories in a clear, concise, consistent, compelling way to get results. We work with both the public sector and the private sector to bring people together, to break down barriers, to get people talking, communicating, cooperating, ultimately collaborating, to create healthy, sustainable communities. We're going to show you a little bit of our work just so you have some idea, and it'll sort of guide guide us along the way in this, so you'll get some sense of what we're doing, how we're doing it, and why and where. We're working in Woodstock, Illinois right now, and we are hired to brand and market Woodstock, Illinois. You're not going to be eligible for the trivia question I'm about to ask. What do you know about Woodstock?
I grew up in McHenry, Illinois.
You did in McHenry. I grew up in Crystal Lake. Okay, we could talk later. Crystal Lake is better than McHenry. So we're working in Woodstock, Illinois, 47 miles northwest of the city of Chicago. It's on the Metro line. It's got a historic and charming town square with a great old opera house from the 1890s and a courthouse from the 1890s. And Orson Welles got his start there. Chester Gould, creator of Dick Tracy, the comic strip, lived there and created and drew and wrote Dick Tracy from there. And it's also home, and this is the trivia question, it's also famous for a few other things, with one thing that I'm going to ask you about. And the winner, the first one to blurt out the answer to this, wins a real Woodstock hooded sweatshirt. It's not a hoodie, it's a hooded sweatshirt. As a branding perspective, as a branding person, we had to make sure that we talked about it as a hooded sweatshirt versus a hoodie. But the first person to answer this question will win this. If the size is not right, you can talk to me afterwards and we'll get you the right size. So, in the year 1993, a movie was filmed in Woodstock, Illinois, on the square, and it featured a guy named Bill Murray. I said you weren't eligible. Okay. Who else said Groundhog Day? You did? Vern did? Okay. Vern, but you'll get one too. I just got to get your address and I will mail it. It was Groundhog Day, right? Okay. Groundhog Day was filmed in Woodstock, Illinois. But we were hired by the city, City of Woodstock. Our project, we're 8 months in, is funded by the City of Woodstock, but we're governed by a 5-person board, public sector and private sector. There's 2 city council members, Mike Turner and Maureen Larson, 2 of the finest people you'll ever meet, and 3 private sector people who are also 3 of the finest people you'll ever meet. Before Promote Woodstock was born and before we came in, Mike and Maureen knew each other from council. The others didn't know each other. They're getting to know each other as the governing body of this board. Our job is to increase economic development, enhance and increase tourism, and build a stronger community. So the campaign or the platform in Woodstock is all around this idea of real Woodstock. So it's real food, it's real fun, it's real festivals, it's real opportunity from an economic development perspective. And everything we're starting to build around on the economic development strategy in Woodstock and McHenry County is around local food and around clean energy, renewable energy. So the city of Woodstock, by hiring a branding firm, and forming this public-private partnership that can move quickly. They're funded by the city of Woodstock, but we don't have to go through city council for everything that we do. They've got control of the money, we've got control of the budget. We can move very quickly, and we can do the things that we need to do to attract business, to encourage entrepreneurship, to work with businesses, to grow them, and to cultivate a stronger sense of community, and to cultivate this idea of a healthy, sustainable community. So it's 8 or 9 months into it, but it's been a fascinating process and ride, and it's leading to us working in Freeport, Illinois, which is, who knows Freeport? Somebody else, of course somebody's going to know Freeport. Freeport, if you go west of Chicago to Rockford and then keep going another 30 minutes and you fall off the edge of the earth, then you get to Freeport. It's about 2.5 hours west. It's the county seat of Stevenson County, 25,000 people in Freeport, 45,000 people in the entire county, Stevenson County. So it's a neat town though. Spencer Tracy has some roots in there, and there's a lot of wonderful things. But we're about to start branding and marketing Freeport because they feel like their town is going the wrong direction and the town is starting to die. And we're being brought in to work to build a sense of community, bring everybody in so that we can right the ship and get it going in the right direction. The next 2 I'm just going to show you briefly because they're strong, they're connections to South Bend and this area. We rebranded Transpo about a year ago, and and develop this website for them. And the tagline, the idea is around the idea of next stop. So the next stop could be relaxation, it could be around opportunity, it could be around not only your journey, but your destination. And then here at Indiana University South Bend, getting to know Mike and Krista and company, my cousin Dinah Harris was not really my cousin, but we act like cousins, right? We fight, we argue, we get along, and sometimes in the same conversation, right? But Mike said, we've got this sustainability studies degree and this graduate certificate, we've got to get this going. And one of the things that we've learned through the years, and I hope is reflected through this campaign, is this idea of being positive and getting people thinking of the opportunity before them, the opportunity in front of them, right? So we sometimes get bogged down in what does sustainability mean, and some people say sustainability isn't enough because you're just sustaining yourself, and we should do thriving communities, and people are tossing out resilience and all of that. But at the end of the day, it's really about Miles having, not only a job, but a career, and being able to be doing what he wants to do, making that living, having a great life, and being excited and passionate about it. Now, if you know Miles Robertson, I think you can be passionate about pretty much anything, right? Those of you who know him. So there's 3 or 4 or 5 other folks that we created. We're crafted and are telling their stories so that it's easy for people to see what you could do with that degree in sustainability studies. Tell you a little bit about my background. I'm going to go earlier than the 90s. Came out of school in 1986, and my first job was in Rockford, Illinois, and unemployment was 26.7% in Rockford, Illinois, a hardscrabble manufacturing town 30 miles east of Freeport, Illinois. And it was 26.7%, and it was #1 in the country for unemployment, #1. I didn't work for the newspaper, which was the Register Star, owned by Gannett. I was working for a startup magazine called Rockford Magazine, owned by a guy named Bill Hughes. And Bill was a lifelong Rockford person who knew that the community was going in the wrong direction, but he also understood and knew that there were some great stories going on in Rockford. There were some great people, there were some great businesses, there was some great opportunity, and that if we relied on the so-called negativity of the daily press, and I'm not here to bash the press because I'm a former journalist. The press reports the good, the bad, and the ugly. Not their job to tell us that South Bend is great or Rockford is great. But Bill said, hey, the newspaper's over here, the TV and radio stations are over here. We're going to do something that tells the positive stories about what's going on in Rockford. Now, it's taken 30 years, frankly, but Rockford is on the move. We facilitate, I chair a coalition called I live in Oak Park, Illinois, first suburb west of the city, and the coalition is the Oak Park Homelessness Coalition, and our mission is to end homelessness in Oak Park. And that doesn't mean that we're going to take the homeless people and make sure that they go to other communities so that their homeless population is increasing. We're starting work next month on a plan to end homelessness to make it a rare and one-time and brief event. Plans have been created in other communities. Progress is being made, and we're we're aiming for that, and that's the plan, is to end homelessness in Oak Park. So I facilitated this meeting the other day, and we're going through the agenda, and somebody blurts out, what's happening in Rockford, Illinois? Okay, and again, having lived in Rockford from 86 to 89, and sometimes when you're beaten with a stick, I kind of cringe. I thought, okay, what now? What negative thing is going to be said about Rockford, Illinois? And the person said, Rockford, Illinois has made it its mission to end veteran homelessness in Rockford, Illinois, to be the first city in the country to do that. Now, Virginia has now announced they're going to be the first state to do that, but the first city in the country to end veteran homelessness, Rockford, Illinois. What a wonderful goal, and it's achievable. They've got a plan, and they're going to go out and do it. So, from Rockford, so the Woodstock stuff, the GreenTown stuff that you're going to hear about, all of this stuff that we work on and you guys work on, stems from being in Rockford, Illinois in 1986 when it was, the highest unemployment rate in the nation, and pretty much everybody in town said, last one out, turn out the lights, right? Just fold it up, we're going, okay? But folks stayed back. Guys like Bill Hughes said, we're going to do this, it's going to be better, we're going to make it great. And they're on that path, finally, 30 years later. So I then left Rockford to go to Forbes magazine, where I was a reporter for about 3 years. And I had the great fortune of walking in one day to the office, and I was the youngest of 5 in that office in Chicago, the Forbes Bureau in Chicago at the Civic Opera House. And my boss was from Seattle, and he said, we need coffee. Go get coffee. I said, where do I get coffee? This was 1989 or so. Where do I get coffee? He says, there's this new place up the street. Go down there. Go up the street. I said, what's it called? He said, Starbucks. So I walked up the street a couple of blocks, second Starbucks in the city of Chicago, and about the 75th store in the nation, third market. And when I walked in there, and of course now we all know the Starbucks routine, right? But I walked in there, and there was somebody said, step up here, the barista will help you. And I said, barista? What's a barista? It was frightening at the time. So I ordered the coffee. My boss was from Seattle. He knew coffee, so he was he knew how it was going to be ground and what drip and all of the machines and all that. And I didn't even drink coffee. So I walk out, go back to the office. 2 weeks later, he comes in, he says, we need more coffee. And I'm like, okay, so is this what I'm supposed to do here, low man on the totem pole, and I'm supposed to go get coffee? So I did. I walked up again, and all of a sudden there's a line, okay? Fast forward, line's out the door. I come back to the office, and so this is after about 2 months, and the line kept getting progressively longer. I said, I think there's something here, because people are spending $5 for a cup of coffee when we could get Maxwell House and Folders over here, and it could be, 10 or 20 or 30 cents a cup. And he said, so what do you mean? I said, I think we got a story here. I think we've got a story that there is a trend here, there's an opportunity. So, point is, wrote the first national story on Starbucks back around 1990 or so, and it opened my eyes to the idea of a new brand and a new opportunity and a new empire that has now, not only taken root, but in some cases taken over. Coal mining, when I was at the Marmon Group, Marmon Group is a $6 billion conglomerate. It used to be owned by the Pritzker family. It's now owned by Warren Buffett of Berkshire Hathaway. And my job was to market coal mining equipment, okay? And in the 90s, and this was a global business in the 90s, Marmon Group was buying businesses all over the world, in China, in South Africa, in Australia, in Europe. And I just thought, wow, coal mining, this is cool, right? I had no idea at the time, and nobody else really did, about how dreadful, damaging, and deadly coal mining and coal is to the environment, right? I had no clue. Rockford, Starbucks, Forbes, coal mining, etc. Went in, and so I've been in coal mines on 3 different continents in seams that are as low as 42 inches, where you literally have to crawl on your belly to get to the coal and mine that coal. And it was the coolest thing ever, until I realized a number of years later, call it year 2000, I'm working for a branding firm called VSA Partners, and I go down to Georgia because Interface, the folks who make carpet tile, Ray Anderson, the CEO, was very early on in this idea of being green and making green, right? You can do right by the environment, and you can make a lot of money doing it. So Interface, publicly traded company, New York Stock Exchange. I go down there, we're writing the annual report, and I'm supposed to ghostwrite Ray Anderson's letter to shareholders. And his COO at the time, COO, Charlie Neal, I tell the story of Charlie, we're here right now. I meet with Charlie first for about an hour, and we end the interview, and he escorts me down the hall to Ray's office. And as I'm about to walk through and meet Ray Anderson and sit down to interview him, Charlie stops me, puts his hand on my shoulder, and pulls me back, literally. And his face is like right here. He says, you know, Ray, I'm going to keep the language, I'm going to clean up his language for our audience here. But he says, Ray's going to talk to you about this sustainability stuff. And I need you to make sure that you listen to it and, you know, and you take it all in. But you know, a lot of people think he's crazy. Crazy. And I looked at Charlie, I said, you think he's crazy? He goes, a little bit. And he shoves me through the door. Here was the guy second in command in a New York Stock Exchange listed company. This is 15, 16 years ago, not that long ago, going, my boss is nuts. You can't be green, pull the chemicals out, reduce the water, do a take-back system, do carpet tiles. The whole idea of the carpet tile, it's beautiful. If I drop my coffee drink right here, right now, maintenance, if you don't have carpet tiles, has to come in and pull the whole thing up and throw it out in the trash. Okay? But if you have a carpet tile, you can pick up the one carpet tile, you can replace it. They do some great things with the glue, so you only replace one, and they have a take-back system. They'll take it back, okay? And then they reuse it. So he revolutionized the textile industry by doing this and made shareholders, okay, stockholders, people who own the stock of the company, a lot of money. I'm going to try and fast forward through this. We ended up working with Steelcase, so indoor air quality with commercial furniture. And that's where I got to know Bobby Kennedy, a guy named Peter Wegge, who was from the Steelcase family. His parents started the company, and Peter had this idea of economicology, so sort of like Ray Anderson. He said, you can be good for the environment, and you can make a lot of money. And over the years, a lot of people have gotten rich off of Steelcase stock, too. And then Bill McDonough and Cradle to Cradle. Who knows Bill McDonough's work? Go higher if you don't mind. I don't know why. I think I'm okay. Great. So most everybody does. Okay. This is going to be kind of important for later on. Who's heard something, anything about Bill McDonough and Cradle to Cradle in the last year or two? Why? Is he teaching it in the practicum? What? She is? Right. Okay. You have. Who else raised their hand in the last year or two? Okay. And you're in school too, right? Okay. Right. But most everybody who went like this, who knows Bill McDonough, has not really heard it in the last year or two. Okay. I think that's an important note as we move this through this idea of making sure that we're not only starting, but we're finishing. You know, we're moving through. We haven't heard a lot about Cradle to Cradle, even though it's an important concept. So, and then on through GreenTown and community branding, which I've already talked to you a little bit about. So, what does a healthy, sustainable community look like? We start with and look at the triple bottom line. A lot of other people do. It seems to make sense to just keep it there, but it's this idea of environmental effectiveness, economic development, prosperity, and social justice. Hand up, not hand out. So Krista mentioned GreenTown, and some of you came to GreenTown not once, but maybe twice here in South Bend. We co-founded it back in 2007 with our nonprofit partner, 7 Generations Ahead. Gary Kaneen runs that organization. He and I both live in Oak Park, and we've run it roughly 20 times over the last 7 or 8 years in 4 Midwestern states. The idea is to bring together anywhere from 300 to 600 people for a day or 2 days, and public sector meet private sector, and by bringing together hundreds of people versus thousands and tens of thousands, we hope we have the opportunity that each one of you can meet each other, and not only meet each other and swap business cards, but then bump into each other, and then sit down over lunch, and then have coffee, and then by the time you get to craft beer time at the end of the event, you become friends, and you have a little bit of a relationship, and you can stay in touch, and hopefully do some good things together down the road. So in 2016, we're working towards, actually the event will probably happen in 2017, but we're starting to work in Madison, Wisconsin. And Madison is an interesting challenge because unlike most communities, it's uber liberal. So Madison has the reverse issue of a lot of communities. They are so far to the left that that this whole idea of sustainability, they think they've been there, done that, and it's all good, okay? Now, there's a group of folks who don't think that they have, but then they got the folks who are really far on the left who say, well, you know, if you drive a car, ever, that's bad, right? If you eat a hamburger from McDonald's, ever, that's bad. So they've actually, in our meetings as we're building the group and the coalition there, they're not afraid of folks on the right, and I realize this is my right, that's your left. They're actually a little nervous about those on the left that they feel shut down all of the opportunity where there's a big sweet spot in the middle. And I think that's something that is important as we talk about getting everyone in and bridging the divide. The extremes, in Madison, it's the extreme left, and in other places, it tends to be the extreme right. We've got to find the middle, and we've got to find the common ground and how we can work together. So GreenTown Madison will be coming in 2017, and over the next 15 months, we're using the event as sort of a cover, if you will. It's really about how we can take all of these disparate groups who think they've got it going on, who think they know what they're doing, they think it's already there, and how do we bring everybody together to break down those barriers, build the networks, build the relationships, find the common ground, and work towards some common goals. So it's really a lot of capacity building and a lot of working towards collaboration. The event, frankly, will be icing on the cake. But we're going to have deliverables and we're going to have measurables, and we're going to spend, after this happens, the next 5 years seeing if what we set out to do is actually going to happen. I'll talk about the Fox Valley Sustainability Network in just a bit, in the interest of moving you along. Just a few photographs, and these happen to be from here. The photo in the upper left is Mark Fenton. Mark Fenton is a fast-talking, fast-walking former Olympic race walker. Did anybody know there was such a thing as Olympic race walking? Okay, a few of you actually did. No real Woodstock sweatshirt for you, sorry. But Mark Fenton led about 125 people on a walk of downtown South Bend. And at the time, the city council was considering this idea of going from one-way streets to two-way streets in downtown South Bend. And you know, I don't want to. I think it had an impact because there were a number of city council members, there were members of the staff, there were lots of folks who were on this walk and who saw the good, the bad, and the ugly, and what the possibilities were for creating a more walkable, bikeable, friendly, approachable downtown. And so GreenTown Outcomes, very briefly, because again, the event is a gateway to results, to a plan, and then ultimately results. So in Oak Park and River Forest, again, where Gary and I live, we did GreenTown a couple of times, and it led to a sustainability plan. And by the way, it did, you know, Therese and Krista and lots of folks, several of them in the room here, created a sustainability plan that came after GreenTown South Bend. In Oak Park, the sustainability plan was created, and 9 indicators were created. Goals were developed for those 9 indicators, and it's 2 different communities, so 2 different governing bodies, if you will. And we create an annual report that measures the progress and effectiveness each year, and I'll show you a snapshot of that later. The implementation of the plan via Planet Green, so there's lots of social media, there's lots of web-based topics, there's workshops, there's breakfasts. One of the things that, and Gary leads it, but he does just, it brings everybody together. So we might have 60 people in the room, and there's 20 people who each do 1-minute snapshots, and everything is, and I credit Chuck Lehman for this. Chuck was here and had to leave, but Chuck is the one who turned us on to Meerkat. So you could actually use your phone and stream it live. Are we being streamed live? Oh, yes. Okay, so yeah. So there's the one person that's watching this streaming live? Maybe? 0 to 1? Okay. So Meerkat. So, and Chuck's done that. When we were in Kent, Ohio, he followed Mark Fenton along for the 45-minute walk and streamed it worldwide. And Mark would keep walking, and Chuck would get behind him. And Chuck, come on, we'll keep up. He's going, we got 85 people watching us live on Meerkat around the globe. And then we'd go another 10 steps. Now there's 100, and they were from all over the world. So it's actually pretty cool. But the idea is that we're doing a lot of different things to engage not only groups but individuals, business owners, residents, faith-based community, etc. And everything is measured. Toledo, Lucas County, working there. The city of Toledo and Lucas County, they've never gotten along. We got them in the same room, and they came out of it with a GreenTown and a sustainability plan. City of Aurora, and this is where the Fox Valley Sustainability Network comes in. City of Aurora and Mayor Weiser is an old Peace Corps guy, so he's sort of healthy, sustainable communities and doing good and doing right is something that's just natural to him. And so we did a couple of green towns, but he kept saying we got to do something that really outlives all of us. So we're starting to develop, and we've got a meeting tomorrow to develop this Fox Valley Sustainability Network to run up and down the Fox River in Illinois. And we're going to gather a dozen communities, 2 different counties, Kane and DuPage, and the private sector, so and all of the educational institutions, so Waubonsee Community College, Judson College, Aurora University, Elgin Community College, and others, and residents and individuals to create this network and start to work together to create a healthy, sustainable region. So here's where we're going to get into this sort of where we are today. And there's probably about 800 more things we could list up here, right? So the issues, the planetary issues, everything from air pollution to global warming to the acidity of the ocean increasing and the breakdown of our coral reefs and our weather patterns changing. Everybody agree that our weather patterns are changing? And the people side of things, obesity. Dr. Richard Jackson at UCLA has written a number of books, former CDC guy. Richard Jackson talks about suburban sprawl and how when we built out, we extended everything, and so everybody got in the car, and nobody was walking, nobody was riding their bikes. So we got away from just natural, exercise. And then our eating habits, got worse, and all sorts of things happened. And now we live in an obese society. So cancer, asthma, Jackson talks about those. And then here's the one that's most recent. Flint, Michigan. Again, Flint, Michigan, okay? As if Flint didn't have enough problems before. Now comes, Mayor Walling, unfortunately, given information that he thought was solid and thought was good, flips the switch to go from Great Lakes water to Flint River water, and it turns out it's not. And if you followed that issue at all or read the Rolling Stone story or any one of a number of stories around the coverage, the effect is catastrophic and long-term. We were on a call today with the Michigan League of Conservation Voters, which is a client of ours, and they're extremely frightened. In fact, a number of them were in Flint recently at a meeting and said, I drank the water. And, nobody wants to be alarmist, but what impact does 1 time or 10 times or 100 times have on you? And especially the young and the old. And it's a problem, it's an enormous, enormous problem. And it's close to home. So where are we now in political season when everything seems to be very loud and shrill? Does anybody disagree with that? We seem to be getting a little louder and a little more shrill and a little bit more polarized as a society. And by the way, before I go any further in this presentation, I'm a political independent. I am not a Democrat. I am not a Republican. I tend to vote for the candidate, and I've voted for a fair number of Republican candidates in my day. So, as we move through the next few slides, just want you to know that. It's kind of interesting. So, Stanford did a study, and it was published in the New York Times. This is just in the last couple of weeks. and asked the question, is global warming, an important issue? And 63% of Democrats said yes. 40% of independents said yes, and 18% of Republicans said yes. So when asked the question, should government take action on global warming, 91% of the Democrats said yes. And here's what's interesting. 51%, a majority of Republicans, said yes. We let that sink in for a while? It's not a bad number. This was a really surprising study and story. More than 50% of Republicans. So here's where it gets, so that's good, but here's where it gets a little confusing. 48% of the Republicans are more likely to vote for a candidate fighting for climate change. 47% of Republicans believe that policies designed to curb global warming would hurt the economy. Okay, so which is it, right? So on the bottom one, the 47%, our job is to make sure that folks who think that changing things, regulations, let's say, or fighting climate change, whether it's individual or organizational or governmental, will hurt the economy, we've got to show them that it can help the economy, that we can grow the economy, right? Because that's what people want to talk about. So this is where it gets fun. It's, as I said, shrill, and it's political season. In about a week, we're going to go to the polls. Our friends and I are going to go to the polls. So who's in on this idea of climate change? Who's in on this idea of taking some action on climate change? Ed Cruz says it's not science. Ben Carson, it's irrelevant. Not a crisis. Of course, he had one crisis, and it was on a bridge between New York and New Jersey. That's not really true. Climate is always changing, right? It's always changing. This is the fun one. And again, I'm not here to be a Trump hater, but the Chinese, talk about, wow, over here, the Chinese invented the concept, according to Donald Trump. So here's where it gets really even more interesting, because I don't know that it's a huge surprise to anybody in the room that Donald Trump and maybe Ted Cruz aren't really in on the whole climate change game, and the Republicans and maybe a little further to the right, so it's probably not a huge surprise. But if you watch the Sunday morning shows, how often are they talking about climate change? How often are they talking about the environment? How often are they talking about local food? How often are they talking about walkable, bikeable communities? How often are they talking about clean energy? Anybody? Anybody watch them? Yeah, they're not. They're not, okay? Worse, and I don't know this person here, so, and I don't even know where this image came from, where Copperfield is, or Cypress, or Richmond, but it's a random weather person. So, and I'm not watching South Bend TV all the time, but I can tell you from watching Chicago TV and national, and we used to know Ginger Z before she was big time on Good Morning America. They're not talking about climate change, right? If we got 40-degree weather here this weekend, what are they saying? Yay! Yay! Right? We're happy, right? Because it's warm, okay? They're not talking about it. So even Tom Skilling from WGN in Chicago, he'll touch on it once in a while. He tends to touch on it in print or online, in the Tribune and those types of things. But he's never really addressing it head on. It's always 40 degrees is great, right? 60 degrees is great. Isn't that weather great? And the banter back and forth with the newsreaders and the meteorologist always about how good it is. So probably no surprise here too, and forgive me, I didn't credit it, but this did come from a real place and a real study. The top election issues in 2016, guns, jobs, terrorism, economy, federal deficit, immigrants, education, healthcare. What's missing? Nobody's talking about it. And if it's not even climate change, healthy, sustainable communities, healthy people, okay? And so what we would posit is economy, that's about being healthy. Education, that's about being healthy. Healthcare, that's about being healthy. Jobs, part of the economy. There's a lot of things in here that can make people and communities healthy. So, lest you think that all is not well, all is doom and gloom, here's some positive stuff, but you're also going to hear it's a little bit of a mixed bag. This is a nod to our friends at Innovatus, whom you're going to hear in a couple of weeks. But, you know, solar photovoltaic installations up 34% in 2015. 34% sounds good, right? Sounds good. It's a good number. It's on a small base, but it's a good number. The number of farmers markets in the United States is up 180% since 2006. So we now have 8,268 of them across the country. And this one is fun because it's a big number too. Electric vehicles are up 69%, roughly 300,000 units, okay? But here's the interesting thing. See that other number up there? Who wants to do the math? 17.5 million units. So 300,000 out of 17.5 million units, electric vehicles. Somebody do the math. What's that? 0.5%? Did you say that, Vern? Somebody want to check Vern's math? 2%. Yeah, 0.5%, 2%. Thanks.
Sorry, wrong way.
You're close. That's all right. Okay. Now, again, on the good side, here we've got, you know, this recent climate change agreement, and there was a, you know, are we going to get there? Is it the right deal? And what's going to happen? And we've got an agreement that came out of Paris. Back to the negative side again around healthy, sustainable communities. 50% of African American males in the city of Chicago do not graduate from high school. How are we going to have a healthy Chicago metropolitan region? How can we deal with mental health issues, with gun violence, all of the things that are plaguing Chicago, if 50% are not graduating? And here, again, mixed bag. Sorry to toggle back and forth, but it's kind of fun. This was just in the Chicago Tribune. Today the 27th? Yes, so this was yesterday. Page 3 of the Chicago Tribune. I'm old school. I still read the paper. I recycle it. We can replant trees. You want to debate me on that later? We can have a debate afterwards. Page 3. Headline, Illinois tops in energy efficient buildings for third year in a row. U.S. Green Building Council leads certified buildings. 161 new and renovated projects, the Tribune trumpets and USGBC trumpets. And I thought, wow, that sounds good. And then I went, wait a minute, I'm in Chicago. We're on the 47th floor, one north of South, heart of the financial district. I'm looking out and I'm going, I could count 1,000 buildings out my windows alone. Hang on. So I did a little Google search, checked it a few times, had Vern check it for accuracy, and I came up with 4 million buildings in Chicago, commercial and reserencial. So we got 161. It's page 3. It's great news, and it's 0.004%. Somebody over here checking that, right? So we're getting there, but by God, we got a long way to go, right? And yet, and here's where the economy comes in. If you look around in South Bend or in Chicago or wherever you go, when you drive down the street or walk down the street or ride your bike down the street and you look out the windows, how often do you say, gosh, that place looks tired. That neighborhood, that block, that house, that building, and it's going to need to be replaced, okay? I'm not here to knock down, you know, historic preservationists don't need to boo and hiss. So it's not a question of which building to knock down or to keep up, but there's a lot of new design and new building that's going to go on and needs to go on over the next 20 or 30 years. And if somebody wants, I've got those numbers somewhere back at the office. But it's a huge number. So if you talk about the economy, if you talk about jobs, if you talk about clean energy, you talk about walkable, bikeable communities, there's a huge opportunity. This is an enormous opportunity. So we have a polarized electorate, okay? Left, right, we have all these issues, and yet we're not really coming to an agreement on what to do. We're not even, in fact, on the Sunday morning shows and in the newspapers and in the presidential debates, and on the stump trail in Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina, wherever, we're not talking about these issues, right? We're not talking about, these are the issues that we're talking about, okay? And that whole there is healthy, sustainable communities, is climate change. So, who here thinks that, who here is for a healthy, sustainable community, right? No? Just making sure. You were comfortable, right? You were comfortable. So, we're all in, right? And the evidence, by the way, that shows whether you're a Democrat or a Republican, there's actually some interest and maybe some movement. But if you're a Democrat and you're trying to talk to, say, a Republican friend about something, is that an easy conversation to have if you're trying to change their mind about something, anything? And by the way, the reverse. If you're a Republican and you're trying to change your Democrats, right? So, by the way, first rule, if you take nothing away from this, if you're on social media, if you're on Facebook, Twitter, whatever it is, but let's stay with Facebook for a minute. You know, your views are your views, and I have learned, and friends have learned the hard way, you're not going to change the other person's mind on Facebook. Am I right? Yeah. Right. So rule number one is, if your friend is ultra-liberal, or if your friend is a hardcore right-wing conservative, and you read something from this person and you disagree, if you go in and try and change their mind, what's going to happen? Not, right? You're not going to change their mind. You're just going to set off a firestorm, and you may end up not being friends anymore, right? Okay. Same thing on the other side, right? So what we need to do is stay off of social media. Let's not argue about our position on social media, but we need to reframe the argument, okay? We need to reframe the argument. And here's where we start to get into, and I don't have a behavioral background or a psychology background, but increasingly I've been going to workshops and reading books and talking to people about how do we start to change the narrative or reframe the argument. And this is something that you'll hear, with folks who talk about behavior and changing behavior. Oh, by the way, one of the first things you also learn, not the social media part, but that you can't change someone else. So, when you're talking about change, you have to change yourself. But what we're really trying to do is find a way to get agreement and common ground. I keep forgetting that this is up here. Thank you. So in reframing the argument, we would suggest that instead of being punitive or instead of being negative, that we talk about the positive, right? We talk about the jobs that could be created. We talk about how we could be healthier. We could talk about the better meals that can be made and enjoyed among friends in good company. And find out what we can agree on, okay? So you're over here, I'm over here. What is it that we can actually agree on? So under reframing the argument, on the left is, instead of doing this, you're supposed to do that on the right. So getting hooked into defending yourself or attacking and blaming others, what you really should do is focus on what you consider the most ideal outcome for the situation. Again, this is human behavioral health, right? So you're in that argument, or we're trying to change politicians' views, or we're trying to change the viewpoints of people in our community. Number two, allowing yourself to run with incomplete or distorted perceptions. We all do it. Check the accuracy and completeness of your perception, right? Know what it is that you're talking about. So get the facts, have the facts. Three, assuming your interpretations are correct, and the only correct interpretation. By God, you're right, and everybody else is wrong. Challenge, what you should do is challenge your interpretations. Be open to accepting new interpretations that support your goals and intentions. So I'll let you read the rest, but the idea is, if you're going to have a debate, and if we're going to try and get more people in, okay, talking about healthy, sustainable communities and how our kids can grow up in a healthy world and be healthy and have the jobs and have the homes and have the communities we all want, safe communities too, again, city of Chicago and other places, we have to reframe the argument. We have to learn how to talk with each other in a civil manner. 2, we've got to offer solutions, right? Again, let's grow the economy, let's improve health, let's improve education. I would argue that one way to do it, not only for now and for yourself, but for generations to come, is to enroll at Indiana University South Bend and get your major in sustainability studies. Because not only are you going to have a job, not only are you going to be fulfilled, but you can go out and spread the word, right? Who would have thought that First Source Bank, a bank, right, has this idea of sustainability? You're going to hear from Doug Way from First Source, I think, in about a month or so. But Doug will tell you that they came at it from a cost savings perspective. How do we pull costs out of the bank? And by doing certain green things, they were able to save some money. And guess what? They found that their customers liked it, and they could create a better experience. So, sustainability, all good, right? Lower cost, better experience, happier customers. Fantastic. It's a solution, okay? It's not negative, it's positive, it's not punitive, it's positive. 3, and this is where I'm going to ask you guys to help out a little bit in just a minute. But we need to coordinate and we need to communicate, okay? Concise, consistent, clear, and compelling communications about what it is that we're trying to do. Talking about people, not the environment. So again, as you saw, hopefully you like it and agree, but when we started working with IU South Bend about the degree in sustainability studies, I said, let's do case studies on people that are getting jobs and they're having fun doing it. And that's what, and Mike and company said, my God, we've got wonderful stories, and they're in these places like this place and that place and the other place that people wouldn't necessarily think of as green jobs, if you will. It gets out of that mindset and spreads it. And sell the benefits. You got to talk about the benefits. What's in it for me, right? Everything that we do, everything that we all do, it really is what's in it for the other person. You sell insurance, right? Is the insurance that you sell about, when you sell me insurance, is it about, when we're sitting across from you, you're trying to get me to sign up for insurance? Who's it about? It's about me, right? So, what's in it for me, right? Every time you sit down, you're communicating to me, and I'm thinking to myself, you're telling me what I'm going to get, and I'm thinking, I got to get something out of this, right? There's a whole study, it's fascinating. I'd be happy to talk about it afterwards, but people aren't sold. We don't really sell, people buy. And people buy because they figured out that there's a benefit for themselves. What's in it for me? It's a critical concept. We have to create measurable results. Okay, this is a snippet of that Oak Park River Forest Planet Green Sustainability Plan. But the 9 metrics that are up here, if it's a struggle to see, number 1, energy, 2, transportation, education, community development. Community development. How do we get everybody together? Water, food, waste, green economy, open space ecosystems. So these were the 9 areas that were agreed on in Oak Park and River Forest, 2 communities, 65,000 people. And every year we measure against the goals, and we have a rating system. It's thumbs up, making progress. Okay, in the middle, and thumbs down, we're really not getting anywhere, okay? So you can see energy, making progress, thumbs up, education, making progress, waste. So of the 9 metrics in 2014, only 3 exceeded the goals. Only 3, okay? Thumbs sideways, there's a few of those, didn't maybe met the goals, and thumbs down. Open space and ecosystems and transportation, thumbs down. Open space and ecosystems in 2016 and beyond is going to be a thumbs up, because the community is looking at that going, wait a minute, we're Oak Park. Oak Park, right? We don't have any oaks, and we don't have any parks, and our open space and ecosystems, it stinks, okay? So there's a focus on that. And I'm part of a group with the Community Foundation of Oak Park River Forest, and we decided that it was time for the Community Foundation to stop giving out grants for $500 and $1,000 because as much as we all like $500 and $1,000, it doesn't go very far. Doesn't go very far. So we decided to get a group of business owners and entrepreneurs from Oak Park and River Forest. You can either have your business in the communities, or you can live there and your business could be anywhere. You could be a CEO of a global company. And we decided to raise a modest sum, $100,000, okay? And we set the price, the invitation, $2,500. We set it low enough, so we thought this is an easy ask. I send an email to somebody, I send a text to somebody, I see them in the local coffee house and say, here's what we're trying to do, $2,500. Yes, I'm in. Then we asked them for not 1 year, but 2 years and 3-year commitment. So 40 people, $2,500, $100,000. We raised it in about 3 months. More money than the Community Foundation had raised in that period of time ever from business owners, from entrepreneurs. And we're going to give away $50,000 to one winner with the big idea. The big idea is a transformative idea in Oak Park and River Forest, so that when you walk down the street, ride your bike, 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now, you go, that's pretty cool. What happened? And I'm here to tell you that 2 of the 5, we had 39 applications from nonprofits and for-profits. We didn't put any shackles on it. Ultimately, we said that if it's a for-profit idea, we got to have some sort of nonprofit engagement around it. But we went from 39 down to 15 down to 6 entries, 6 finalists. We're going to put them on stage, Shark Tank style, at the end of February. And the 40 shareholders are going to vote on who gets the 50 grand. And 2 of the 6 are in the open space ecosystems area. Okay? And they're going to have $50,000 plus a whole room full of people who have deeper pockets who are going to say, I love that idea. May I invest? Okay? May I invest? May I be part of this? And we're going to create jobs, and we're going to create wonderful open spaces in Oak Park and River Forest, and places for people to enjoy, et cetera, et cetera. And then 5, connect the dots, okay? And education could be lumped in a couple of different areas here, decided to keep it simple. But citizens, government, businesses, everybody, connecting the dots. So, as we get close to the end here, since you've sat so patiently, I'd like to ask you to spend 2 minutes, and you're going to be timed. I want you to turn to somebody. I'm not going to make, well, some people may need to move, but pair up. And what you want, I'm going to give you either citizens, government, businesses, one of the 3. And want you guys to come up with 1, no more than 2 ideas on ways you could create a healthier place in South Bend, Mishawaka. Okay? So if you've got an easy partner, so what we're going to do is we're going to do here, this side of the room, okay, you guys are going to do, you're going to do government, okay? You guys get government, okay, and then right in here, you're going to get business. You'll have to figure it out. You can do it. Woodstock, McHenry, you guys would do, what's the other one? Citizens, okay? All right, so McHenry and Over do citizens. So find a partner. You're going to get 2 minutes and come up with 1 to 2 ideas amongst yourself on how we can create a healthy, sustainable community. Okay? Time it. Krista.
I'm started.
Time's up. Just kidding. What's that? Where you go. Yeah. It would help.
I don't know if that really happens. I will, and then basically it's
You guys, oh, okay, you are talking. Good. You're thinking. You got it? All right. Okay. 15 seconds. One of you is going to shout out your answer. 10, 5. Mike, that's enough. Please. All right, bring it back. Here we go. I'm glad, Gabrielle, you separated. It's good to be near him, but it's good to get away from him once in a while. All right, great. So, who had what were you guys? Government. Okay, Krista is going to write these things down. So, give us an idea or two.
Starting some kind of composting program like recycling the trash.
Okay, composting program. Okay, in the area. All right. You want to throw in?
Sure. Additional bike lanes.
Additional bike lanes. Additional bike lanes. Okay.
Maybe putting in more kind of like a green roof. I don't think we really did green roof.
More green roofs. What's the benefit to a green roof? Why would you do that?
Not only is it, I think it's more green space, so you can get it on top of like some of the downtowns and like the hotel maybe and then like some of the stuff that goes there.
Yes.
Within the kitchen, with the shop there and everything.
Yeah, you could grow up there. You could use it for outdoor space up on the roof. You know, some insurance, some regulations, but you could. You could also reduce the energy profile in the building. You could urban heat island effect, reduce runoff, all sorts of stuff. Yes. All right, you guys.
We thought about putting a bike path along the old rail line.
Okay, bike path along the old rail line. Great, wonderful. Okay, good. Which group is this? Sorry.
That's recreational alley. That's a good idea. Support.
Support. Yes. Good. Who's in here? What group are you? Business. Go.
Businesses could start using the gray water runoff from the parking lots instead of just letting it go into the
Businesses could start using gray water runoff instead of letting it.
just runoff.
Okay, great. And the advantage to that is the benefit?
Oh, they don't have to use as much water.
Don't have to use as much water. Great, great. You do know that a lot in South Bend. Does South Bend make money off its water? Okay. There are a lot of communities in America that really fight that idea of reducing water usage because they make a lot of money off of people using more water. So, okay, so you're not making money
our
off.
water from
We're
our.
not using the whole capacity of the water.
Okay, great.
We reuse our water from our.
Yes, and you are, when you say we use.
I'm just saying at home.
Oh, at home. Okay, great. Okay, great.
We can't recapture our
Okay.
water
All right.
for reuse.
All right, back here. More locally owned
Yeah.
restaurants, okay, in the Mishawaka area.
And high-end energy efficient.
Okay, all right. So I don't know if the city of Mishawaka is doing it, but one of the things that we're doing in Woodstock and we're going to do in Freeport and in Richton Park, which is a far south suburban community, far south suburban to Chicago, is we're going to start creating a program to attract entrepreneurs. We're going to say, if you have an idea and a business plan, and you can throw in a little bit of equity and a lot of sweat equity, like the Habitat for Humanity model, then the Village of Richton Park, Freeport, and Woodstock are going to give you some grant money and some expertise. They're going to give you a branding expert who's going to do it for free. They're going to give you an architect who's going to do it for free, or reduce cost, contractors, all of those things. And as part of that, green and sustainability is going to be built into it. So you can save water, save energy, life cycle analysis, all of that. So that's a great idea. So Mishawaka could say, hey guys, we want more locally owned businesses, and in order to jumpstart that, we're willing to do X, Y, and Z. And by the way, not just typical government programs where they post it on their website that nobody ever looks at, but they actually brand and market that campaign and actively go out and communicate. They're intentional about it. All right, who else?
There
Yes.
was locally owned business and
Energy efficient buildings. Okay, yes.
So we put two ideas together, a rock balancing effort along the St. Joseph River in a stretch that we will call the River Rock Corridor.
Okay.
That will encourage the founding of additional restaurants and nightlife areas along that stretch between where the Oak and Bucket is and where the new Notre Dame boat launch area is.
So you're marrying nature and commerce and getting people outdoors. So you did lose me a little bit there. You said rock balancing?
Yes.
So the benefit, I didn't know that rocks needed balancing. Do they need balancing? Is that a?
Oh, they do.
They do, yes? They told you, Vern?
you talking about those camps?
So it's an art and a
More than that.
and a discipline, and so you can create this whole thing around river rocks.
Okay. Okay. And have you told others about this?
Not yet.
Okay.
You're the first.
Okay, great. So get the idea for right now. When the time is right. The time must be right. Okay, you guys back there.
Well,
Oh,
So
sorry.
could I ask something?
Sure. Let me get one more out, and then we'll throw you in here.
no, Kirby.
Hang on. Go ahead.
Okay,
Chris?
I'll shut up now.
No, just 30 seconds. Wherever you are.
Well, we had talked about businesses start up bike and transit reward programs to improve the health and wellness of their employees and maybe customers. I think people need some technical assistance figuring out how do you launch a program like that? How do I source bike racks? How do I take advantage of the tax benefits? So some kind of very
Right, so again, combining, a lot of these ideas are about combining different things. Let's come up with a great idea, let's come up with a goal, come up with a strategy, come up with a deliverable, come up with a budget, and then here's who will benefit and how they will benefit. So yours is about bikes and transit?
improving the wellness of employees. Employers investing in the wellness of employees by encouraging them to bike or take care of them.
Okay, great, got it? Okay, great. So back here, all the way in the back.
Well, we have a business manager here, and he pointed out that businesses want lower tax rates. Since I came from the government side, I said, we can give you stable tax rates.
Right,
So if you know what the future's gonna look like,
right.
you can plan. If you only see things going up, all you know is, you're a little slightly.
Who here thinks their taxes are low? Oh, come on, do you really? Your taxes are low? Okay, okay.
You don't have a good mindset.
Yeah, no, stable though is good, right?
That's good, that's what we count on.
Right, okay.
Because we're believing this.
But what's your idea?
Well, stable tax rates from the government and business.
Through how? How are you gonna do that?
Well, it has to be voted on at the council, that we say we're gonna.
But that's a goal, is what you're saying, is to keep, okay, right. My daughter is looking at colleges, and we're gonna go down to Arizona because she wants warm weather. So she's looking at University of Arizona, Arizona State, and Northern Arizona University, which is in Flagstaff, and I don't think she realizes quite yet that Flagstaff isn't warm. It's the same temperature in Flagstaff. But all the materials we're getting from Northern Arizona University is all about, if you sign up now, you come to NAU for 4 years, same rate. It's not gonna go up. So to your point,
You can make a future.
yes, you could plan. So Kirby, are you out there?
I am. I almost forgot what I was going to say. No, just kidding. So back to the rock balancing and that whole stretch along the river. As an avid runner and bicycle rider for years, I've thought it would be a wonderful idea to combine the various river walks into one that would take it all the way from east end of Mishawaka all the way out past Pinhook. Now, what's missing is a year-long access to fresh water and drinking water. The fountains are shut off in September, and they're not turned on until I think almost June. So I'm thinking big picture here, and I don't know if it would even happen, but it's an economy and it's a healthy person concept, which would be not only including the trail the whole way and incorporating the whole way, coming up with some sort of idea or concept that will allow pop-up nutritional stations and possibly even warming huts along the way to offer Laura bars, nutritional bars, as well as water for drinking. Because when you're in the middle of September and the fountains are off, you have to go into a 7-Eleven or a gas station bathroom, and so it's kind of a big idea, but it's one that would really be easy to pull off.
And could you use this trail system not only for recreation, which is significant, but could you use it to get to and from work?
Oh, absolutely. There's a lot of folks that ride their bicycles all year round to work to South Bend and Mishawaka. And, if you have a place where I suppose you could incorporate things for bicyclists as well as walkers. But I mean, that's the problem. We have the resources, we have the scenery, the beauty, we have the economy available. No one's actually ever tried to do anything like this, but it's done in other cities across the country.
Right. Well, best practices, that's a great point. It's creative, it's innovative. I mean, what you guys are talking about, I didn't know the rocks needed balancing. Thank you. And what you're talking about builds on that idea. Okay, thank you. Where are you, by the way?
I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Oh, okay. So who are you rooting for in the Super Bowl?
Well,
right.
Mr. Payton.
I guess it was an obvious answer, right? So residents, you guys got something?
We talked about we needed a centralized community center to bring people together to kind of inform them about healthy lifestyles and how to make that possible.
A centralized community center that brings people together, maybe downtown in the center of the community. Okay, great. You guys?
We kind of mixed and matched our ideas. So from just like a grassroots level, maybe we'll meet someone at the farmers market that allows us to take their food, and we met a group of people at the South Bend Heritage Foundation and Co-op Housing Project where they're having hard to get access to fresh foods. So we're now promoting a walking group, and we've got the food that's left over from the farmers market in our backpacks. We're walking to the west side of South Bend and dropping the food at a community that needs it.
Right, so what you're doing is you're bridging a divide, right? You're taking food that otherwise would go to waste, you're getting your exercise, and you're going to a place where maybe you've never been or haven't been in 10 or 20 or 30 years in South Bend and meeting people that you never met before, right? So
and we want to just promote the story. So we're walking and we're promoting, and then people can just copycat in their own area.
Right. So, I mean, you could foresee an entire community that shares its surplus food and gets back to actually being neighborly, right? Where you know the neighbor on this side, you know the neighbor on that side, and if you're on the east side of the community and the west side of the community, you all consider yourself neighbors. Okay, wonderful. I think that could be there's a lot of things that could be big ideas. You guys here?
I would say urban agriculture, so people start growing their food. And like you were saying, thinking that somebody knows somebody on the other side of town, or not like we have them.
Right.
Trade food.
Okay, great. And vertical farming, go ahead.
We were also talking about having competition with the community, so that a lot of the things we learned from Mike's talk, Chris's talk, can be conveyed in public life, because most of the deeper issues, the deeper instructions on how to do these things, it doesn't get conveyed. So if it got started in a way that was a friendly competition, neighbors always compete with each other anyway.
Yes. A friendly competition. Who's heard of Shark Tank? Who watches Shark Tank somewhat regularly, right? And who's sick and tired of Shark Tank? Maybe there's a little, but yeah, I mean, competition brings out ideas and brings people together, and things start to spark and happen. So, did you have a comment on theirs, or?
Just in general, we kind of talked about how it's got the word out or some sort of thing more often.
Yes.
You could get people more involved. Like, I know there's a lot of people, especially in my generation, who are interested in, composting and, local food stuff. But a lot of times, like, I personally don't know where the farmers market is.
Right.
So, I mean, if you don't know where to get your resources from, where to get things done,
That's going to be it's funny you say that. That is probably the biggest thing that's going to happen to the Fox Valley Sustainability Network that we're creating. And I have to say that as a brander and a marketer and somebody who's focused on communications, it's still when the group sat down and said, There's a lot of things happening. It's just that people don't know about it. I kind of went, duh, but you're right. People just generally don't know enough. Now, it may be accessible via the internet, or it may be accessible at a poster at Chicory Cafe, but that doesn't mean that you're going to see it. I mean, we could do a whole class on branding and marketing, but you got to see things 5-7 times before it even registers and you start to do something about it. So you got to make sure that you're telling the right story, getting to the right audience, you're doing it, you're repeating. Sorry. Yes?
Well, not to repeat, but as we talk a lot of the same things that I hear in this whole citizen thing, there was stuff about the farmers market, stuff about reaching out, seeing information. And that, it strikes me that there's got to be some kind of cross-pollination effort between groups that don't normally talk to each other.
Right.
Kayla, right?
Right.
Kayla's a student who's right down the street from the farmers market.
Yep.
We live just on the other side of the lane, but we go to the farmers market all the time.
Yeah.
How do we talk to each other? I'm sure she knows a bunch of stuff about the community, about how to live sustainably that we would never have heard about. Or walking from the farmers market to the west side. I mean, it's got to cross-pollinate.
Yes, absolutely right. Absolutely right. And again, find common ground and find common interests, and then you can start to move forward. But you got to start that. You got to do it, and then you got to keep doing it. And then you got to keep reinventing, because people will get bored, or people will get tired, or people will get burned out. So the quicker you could figure out how to make more money for everybody, so that they can hire more employees and they can go home at night and enjoy their lives and some downtime, better off we'll all be, right? Okay, so did you guys have something in here? We didn't. More civic engagement. What do you mean?
By perhaps attending city council meetings, a group of citizens.
Yes.
Enjoy going to city council and
Yes.
council meetings and that, really.
Yeah. So.
And going to those meetings will help support and uplift what's
Yes.
happening in the community.
And-
The Office of Sustainability.
Yes.
The city of South Bend.
Oh, Therese, she's doing it all on her own, right?
Yes, she is.
Well, she can. She doesn't really want to, right?
But we also have MACOG, which is.
MACOG, yes.
It's a regional.
Yes.
organization. So if you're not,
Yes.
we could encourage people to be more civically engaged and come out and attend the council.
Yep.
And form a group.
Yep.
That distributes that.
Yes.
Because the Office of Sustainability already has a fabulous website.
If-
Some different businesses.
Yes.
Citizens. So, it's here.
Yes.
And.
Right. Okay, good.
And it really does connect business,
Right.
government.
So citizen engagement, going to city council meetings, etc. You guys back here, the students, anything else, you guys? You were forced to be here. Did you guys talk about anything else, or did you comment? Okay, and then you guys back here.
Well, I think there's a lot that's really focused on the adults, what they can do in the community, and
Yeah.
stuff that our teachers teach children.
Yeah.
And so I think implementing certain programs and schools on like
And sorry, what program?
teaching them things like basics of gardening and
Yes.
things like that.
Yes.
Build this sort of online
Absolutely.
snippet in the future.
Connecting people to the land,
Right.
connecting children to the land at a very early age. If you're a Sand County Almanac, Aldo Leopold fan, we lost our connection to the land, 50, 100 years ago, and we're just now starting to get back to that. But there's all sorts of wonderful things that can happen for you personally and ultimately professionally to benefit your life if you're connected to the land. So this is kind of interesting. Just going to add a few things in here. Some of these already came out here today, so it's just we're going to add this to your list here. But one of the things I just learned in one of these behavioral, courses, workshops was, and it just struck me as, oh my God, how simple is this idea? Writing a personal mission statement, right? How many of us in this room have like a little 1-sentence, 2-sentence statement about our own personal life, our mission in life? How many? That's good. That's good. You must have, Professor King must have touched it, right? No? That's good. Most times Nobody, right? I don't. I need to write one because that will help guide me. It will help guide all of us, in everything we do so that we're intentional about it. Grow your own food. Eliminate pesticides. Keep the indoor air clean. Join the Purple Porch Co-op, for God's sakes, right? Support a sustainability organization. Join an organization where you meet new people, right? You guys are in this organization. Can you go over and meet and make some new friends, right? There's some good things happening in the NAACP here in South Bend, right? But how many times have we gone to those meetings? How many times have NAACP members come to other organizational meetings? We've got to get together, break down barriers, find common ground, and become friends. Major in sustainability studies at IU South Bend. Go solar, geothermal, net zero. Move downtown, buy an electric vehicle if you need a car. Ride your bike, walk, take public transit. Go to a city council meeting. You guys said that one. Host a coffee and organize. Use social media only for inspiration, aspiration, perspiration, never to preach. Meet your elected officials, support locally owned businesses, and be like Mike, not Mike Jordan, Mike Keene. And that's just a starter. So here's the interesting part about this. I think, Krista, if you agree, we could take a lot of these ideas that you came out with and start to formulate them into goals, okay, and objectives and strategies, and start to work on tactical ways to get some of these things actually going and happening in your community. And if, to your point, a lot of these things are already happening, we could start to trumpet them so that they actually go up. Remember the example early on, 69%, electric vehicles up 69%, but it's still only 2% of the vehicles, right? Farmers markets up 180%, but still in a fraction of our communities. Solar, PV, 69%, that number, or whatever it was, going up. But again, it's just not part of our everyday life like it might be in, say, Europe. So, to go back to this and wrap it up, a lot of you folks already said this. So we've got to do things individually, but we've got to roll it up. So we've got to create awareness. We've got to educate. We've got to bring people together, break down the barriers, begin to plan and organize. And then when we get to the behavioral change, again, we've got to reframe the argument. We've got to find common ground, get to what we can agree on, and then work towards those results. And ultimately, through inspiration, aspiration, perspiration, and by reaching out to our youngest and the oldest in our community, those who are marginalized or those who are really too little to talk, bring everybody together, and we get to a new normal. So what have our communities looked like, and this isn't really it because it's not in the grid and, it might be in China and things of that nature, but what if our communities, we had access to open space, transit, affordable housing, a local economy again, stormwater management, access to clean water, the green roofs that you guys talked about, ecological protection, all of these things coming together to create a healthy, sustainable community for people and for planet. And after we do all of this, is it dark outside yet? Is it dark outside? Okay. So in Des Moines, Iowa, there's a story on Politico about how Des Moines, Iowa became hip. You read that story? Des Moines, Iowa, insurance capital of America, maybe Hartford, but Hartford and Des Moines neck and neck, became hip. And the phrase that was used by the writer in Politico to get Des Moines to where the community wanted to go, to be hip, to be trendy, to be growing, to be a vibrant community, to be a healthy community, was radical cooperation. So what if we went out and painted a water tower tonight, overnight, all of us together? Who's in? All right, good. Thank you very much.
Thanks for everyone for coming out. We are at 8:30 when we're supposed to wrap up, but John agreed to hang out. If you have time for a few questions, I'm sure he's raised a lot of great ideas before anybody wanders off. We're back here next week, same time, same place, right? And we get to meet TJ, the president of Innovative Solar, here next week. So
anybody have any?
That's very exciting. So
Might be a little bit louder, please. Not for me, for everyone else.
When we talk about reframing the
Yes.
argument, so I think about the triple bottom line, you know, the economy, the
Yes.
environment, and social justice. Don't we have to put hearts and minds in there? I mean, it's beyond education, you know, maybe it should be a four-way.
That's an interesting idea. Let's write that down. Yeah, a four-legged. So in other words, the idea of heart and soul and passion.
You know, and
Yeah, right.
so the only way I can buy in is
See you, cousin Dinah.
understand the thing, right?
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
you know,
Yeah, an overlay of that idea of, what did you, passion, soul, what was the word used? Hearts and minds.
but see,
Yeah.
you can't reframe an argument without having facts
Right,
in place,
right.
I mean, you can, but it's not sustainable.
Correct, absolutely, right. Other questions, comments? Anyone else? Am I buying insurance for me tonight? Gabrielle? Go ahead, it's okay.
I was just interested in the intersection also between the marketing and branding and all these wonderful ideas. I thought this was a terrific talk. I really liked the ideas. I liked your energy and what you did with it. But what I didn't quite see is where did the branding and marketing.
You know, that's a great point. We were talking about this in a meeting today. The American Society of Landscape Architects is a client of ours, and ironically, it was in Gary, Indiana, and there was a project to redo corridors and green space in Gary to make it prettier, more beautiful, more sustainable, stormwater management, runoff, etc. And they said, we're going to do branding and marketing, but they put it at the end of the process. And by the end of the process, guess what happened? They didn't do it. They had no money left over. They had no energy left over. They've been doing it for years. And it died. It died. So, forgive me for not making the connection well enough or properly, but back to your point. In Woodstock, we're working to grow a healthy, sustainable community. When we sat down to interview with them, they had no intention of hiring us to create a healthy, sustainable community that could grow in a sustainable manner, to have a local farm, food-driven economy, to have a clean energy-driven economy, and to have happy and healthy citizens and bring in tourists for all these wonderful experiences. But they started with branding and marketing, and that's what by our process of getting people together, that's what we've gotten to. And so they've come to it, even though that's where we wanted to go right away, by engaging everybody, they came to it themselves, because that's what people want. So to your point, we started telling the story. So at one story we've told is two women who started a chocolate making business on the historic, charming Woodstock Square.